So welcome everybody to today's webinar on ESG Unlock System Thinking for a Greener Tomorrow towards COP28. We are very happy to host today's webinar in partnership with the Do School, and it's my pleasure to hand over to Belinda, who is the Managing Director of the Do School Asia, to start the webinar. Over to you, Belinda.
Thank you so much, Sadia. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining right now. It's really exciting topic today. It will be interactive, and we have some really cool things prepared for you. So let me quickly share my screen. And today, our presentation is on Unlock System Thinking for a Greener Tomorrow ahead of COP28. And this webinar is part of a workshop that we're hosting together with Hakama and Planative on the 3rd and 4th of May in Dubai. And webinar is called, that a workshop in person is called Build Your 2023 ESG Roadmap Ahead of COP28. And if you're interested to join, we will also be sharing more information with you in an email afterwards. And with that being said, my name is Belinda Esterhammer. I'm the Managing Director of the Do Asia, and I lead our Asia operations here. The Do is a global platform accelerating a new economy that is sustainable, innovative, and equitable. So we work together with organizations to innovate with speed, build ecosystems around the great issues of our time, and also to really move the needle faster from A to B. With me is our Head of Sustainability, Aigul. I'll let her introduce herself.
Yes, so thank you so much. And yes, so my name is Aigul Safiolina, and I'm a Head of Sustainability here at the Do Asia. Also working on our sustainability initiatives, projects, and long-term programs. So very excited to work with you to have this next hour together.
So the Do is an award-winning company and was founded 10 years ago by thought leaders Florian and Catherine. And we impacted over 5 million people all over the world and have a platform and network of over 50,000 innovators and experts, and are in over 30 countries. And we work together also with leading experts in our global community. And we have community partners in mobility, retail, energy, food, and cities. And we run over 30 plus programs currently globally around the world. So today we're here to talk about ESG.
Yes, so just yesterday at in his closing remarks at the Copenhagen Climate Ministerial March, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber said the following remark: "We have a short window of opportunity to deliver a system-wide transformation. But if we make the right investments, we can create a pathway for sustainable growth where climate and economic progress go together." ESG-related risks and opportunities are literally everywhere now, and they are vital issues for every business. So each and every business is concerned everywhere in the world, and we're going to demystify it today, and we're going also to make it more interactive. So if we go further, just a quick and short theoretical part about ESG risks and opportunities, because quite often when we hear about ESGs, it's either the E, the environmental part, and the climate action, and everything that has to do with nature, or we often hear also about the investments and governmental issues, but actually it encompasses a lot more, right? So for example, in 2020, the Bank of America research team estimated that over $600 billion in market cap for S&P 500 companies had been lost to ESG controversies in the previous 7 years. And of course, this number has been growing if you also see the dynamics. And just last year, in May 2022, Tesla was also cut from the ESG index for S&P 500. So even Elon Musk is not pro, couldn't escape that. So just quickly, so when we talk about ESG risks, we put them in 3 categories, right? So the first one is, of course, stands for E and environmental. So here we look at the carbon footprint, water usage, waste disposal, greenhouse gas emissions, impact on biodiversity, deforestation. Basically everything that most of the time we see in the news that got more attention, and which is also very, quite loud in the agenda today. And then, but then it also has obviously the reputational risks. It comes also with financial risks. Then when we look at the social aspect of it, we look here at the wage equality, workplace safety conditions for the workers, supplier vendor practices, human rights violations, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and data privacy, right? So again, looking at in the global context as well, it has been also quite, quite loud in the agenda. And lastly, we look at the governmental category, and of course it has to do with transparent communications, ESG disclosures, board structure and diversity, so looking also at our boards, corruption and fraud prevention, organization integrity and ethics, and executive compensation, right? And I know that it probably looks a bit overwhelming at the moment, but it all has its purpose. So basically, this is the overview, just a quick overview, because of course we look at this as if, you know, it was risky, but at the same time, all these points that we just went through also bring the opportunities, right? And opportunities for every company, for every organization to be the leader, to be the pioneer in their operations. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Aigul. And we are, again, just doing a little refresher on the theoretical part. And we also discussed a lot of the theory behind it also last week in a webinar that we did together with Planative, and where we discussed more around that. So today is going to be interactive, and we're going now into an ESG simulation. So don't worry in case you are now afraid, in case you are missing any notes or anything, no need to prepare for that. We have you covered. So we'll also share this, of course, everything with you also again. But generally speaking, if you would just sit back right now and think about that, you are thinking of a certain place, any place could be like this place that we're talking about right now. So we want to reclaim land and want to build a new island that's 50 kilometers away from a city center. The construction site is not ready yet, but we need to bring in 200 workers and set up a village for them within the next 2 months. The waters around this future island have a rich wildlife with a big population of bristlemouth, a source of livelihood for a few fishermen villages. There are 3 property developers that are competing for 2/3 of space that they want to use for residential builds. A number of big retailers expressed their interest in opening the branches within 6 months after the main project is completed. So a similar situation like this, for example, also happened recently in Hong Kong, where we are based, where a lot of land reclamation also is happening, but it's obviously happening all over Asia and also the Middle East. So we thought that this would be a really great simulation to play with. So we have a few discussion points now. And again, we will share this also with you. So there's no need for you to write anything down or anything. But in terms of the discussion points, what are the main ESG risks we are facing in this project? What are the easiest wins to mitigate them? What are the 3 main opportunities we can see here? And who are the main stakeholders to engage?
And so to make it more interesting, right, and to make it more engaging, because of course we are all different, we have different personalities, we come from different industries, we would like to use the 6 hats technique, right? So according to this methodology, we all have 6 types of hats, or 6 types of and styles of thinking. So for example, a white hat, with this thinking hat, you focus on available data. So it's a personality who likes numbers, facts. Then if you look at the red hat, this is more about using intuition, gut feelings, and is someone also emotional, right? So it's also in the expression, you can see that. Then if you look at the black hat, so that would be someone who is always a bit more skeptical, looking also what could be the downside of something, you know, and someone like who is really like concerned. Then yellow hat is someone who thinks more positively, thinks and sees everything, you know, that everything is possible, everything is doable. Then if you look at them, so yes, we have a bit of a, yeah. Okay, so the blue hat represents creativity, and then we have the green hat represents control, right? So we have like sometimes someone who thinks, oh, but we can also do something else or something more. And then of course the 6 personality is more like, okay, we need to know, like, to make sure that everything goes right. So what is going to happen now, you will be in the breakout rooms of 6 to 7 people, so at least minimum 6 people, and you will be discussing the case study and answering these 4 questions, right? So about the main ESG risks, the easiest wins, to mitigate them, opportunities, and stakeholders. And I know it, like, it looks also a bit overwhelming and a lot, but this is not the most, so it's not really important, like, again, like to look at specific numbers or specific cases, but actually to have this engaging conversation. And so each of you will choose one hat, or of course, if there are, for example, 7 people, you can share a hat. And for about 7 minutes, you will be discussing, you know, like answering these 4 questions. And then you can switch hats if you want, right? So if you want to switch hats, you can do that once. And then for the next 5 minutes, you keep discussing, but changing personalities, the thinking ways. And then for the rest of the time that you have, you will just come up, okay, what's the final conclusion? And if, you know, how would you present it? And again, this is a simulation, so we're not expecting any, you know, big outcomes or big decisions. So you will have about 20 minutes. And we will also, what we're going to do, we will share also the PDF document for you if you'd like to also read more. So I would say maybe spend not more than 2 minutes to read more about your personality type, because there are also, so what we will share with you now is also a description, what would be the questions or what would be the approach that you have as someone who wears, for example, the red hat or green hat. So again, the most
don't
important
worry,
part,
we have you covered.
Yeah.
We have you covered. We have a whole like what we will share with you in the breakout rooms is, as Aigo mentioned, also really like more information on questions that you can ask, so you don't need to come up with something. And we also want everybody to really act. So go into this role, for example, of a black hat, of a pessimist, or go into, you know, the yellow one, or be positive if that's your head. So that's why also we want to enable people to really be and think outside of the box. But let's just start doing this. And if you have any questions or anything, you can message us and we're going to jump in and support you. And we're going to be then excited to hear back from you. Let's join the breakout rooms.
Yeah, and also I would like what I noticed as well from my side, that sometimes when we you know, like when we hear ESG, it's always a little bit, it feels a bit limiting, right? Or like there is something, you know, negative coming in. But actually, when we think, for example, about this yellow hat, right, someone positive, there are also opportunities, right? Opportunities coming on how, you know, to be that organization that is leading, that is showing an example, that is being innovative, and you know, finding basically out of the solutions that are, you know, necessary for us to, you know, to live in a more you know, productive way, in a more you know, in peace with nature. And we actually innovate, and we bring new businesses, new you know, drivers of the economy as well. So this is always like, it's very interesting that sometimes we really like, we get into that skeptical head, that the black one, right, that is always like looking, okay, where are the pitfalls? But actually there is a lot more to that.
And I think that, thank you also so much earlier. There's so much that we can talk about, and there's also so much complexity around it. And we tried to gamify a bit of it with today's webinar. And in actually the workshop that we're hosting in May, in those 2 days, there's gonna be a really big actually mix of like content, and also then putting content immediately into action. So for example, what was mentioned earlier, like we will cover these things also in our workshop in May. Does anybody have any questions around the activity that we just did, or want to share anything else?
Yeah, we know it was probably a little bit overwhelming, right, with you know, with the case study and then all these different roles. But maybe, yeah, maybe there was something, I know, like especially with the stakeholders part, I know that it could have been also surprising that there are a lot more stakeholders than we usually think about. So if there was any like new stakeholder that you came up with.
Also, if there's any other questions, anything, also feel free to pop them in the chat in case you don't want to talk right now. But in case there are no further questions, we would leave it at this right now. And this was just really like a tiny snippet of something much bigger that we're planning together. And I hope that some of you also joined last week's webinar. There's also a recording of that available where we dove really deep into actually theory and also practice around it. And yeah, as mentioned again, for those of you that are interested, we are hosting together with Planitive and Hakama on the 3rd and 4th of May in Dubai. Build your 2023 ESG roadmap ahead of COP28. We will share recordings. So I think that in the email that you will receive, you will not just receive this recording, but also the recording from last week. I definitely think we could make that happen. And yeah, again, if you have any further questions or want to discuss the workshop that we're hosting in person, more around the content or anything, please reach out to Hakama, or also feel free to reach out to me, or also to Planitive and Ayla, and we'd be happy to hop on a quick call or something to answer questions if that's something that would interest you. With that being said, thank you so much for joining today. It was a real pleasure to really put a bit of an interactive simulation around that. I know it was probably a surprise for some of you who maybe expected a lecture, but we really also wanted to show you in like really like live how complex this is. So with that being said, yeah, please get in touch if you have any other questions, and we'll be sharing also the slides and also recording with you. Bye.